Thanks for stopping by another episode of New Music today here on the WePodcast Network. I'm Corey Robertson. Something about music that connects us back to nature sometimes, connects us back to our past, and certainly connects us to things that we begin to really think about deep down inside. So what is it that does that? It's a real connection that music begins to take in all of your senses, not just the sounds, but sometimes the sights. It'll even bring back all sorts of memories, whether it's smells or memories. And that's the impetus of today's show. I have Justin Latam with me on the show, and he's got his latest CD, Barefoot, out, and very pleased to have you here for another basement session on the WePodcast Network.
Yeah, very happy to be here, Corey. Thanks for having me.
Getting to know you a little bit. This is your fifth studio album now, and you've been playing the guitar for over 20 years now. But professionally, how long have you really been relying on music?
I guess this is I think my 12th year, kind of gigging out all over the place. So,
yeah. Talk to me a little bit about really the difference between music in your life and music as a life.
Well, that's a good question. I guess for me, they kind of overlap in places. My more recent writing, I'm really kind of writing more about. I've kind of gone into more of a personal writing kind of space. I don't know.
Tell me about that process. The process then of writing a song. For you personally, I think every musician's got a little bit of a different process, right? But is it a spark of a line? Maybe it's a spark of a piece of music. Once you get that, that spark going, how does that process work for you?
Yeah, I used to, just like you describe it as a spark, I used to kind of think you had to sit around and wait for that magic moment to happen. And they did, but it was really I found it kind of sparse. So in between, I would be just kind of waiting. But I've really kind of learned how to work at the craft of songwriting so that in between, I'm just keeping the machine going. And I find I'm more open then to those magic moments. And it just kind of goes from there.
I love that you refer to it as a craft, and I think that's something you really have to, you bear in mind. And I know you're a part of Windsor, Essex Regional Songwriters group, and that's something that originally started probably 10 or 15 years ago with a little bit of help from Factor, getting that started down in our area. So really fair to say then, if I look at it from an outsider's point of view, a guy who likes to listen to music.
Right.
At the end of the day, there's still a certain amount of journeyman process here. It's still a job. So you still have to work on being, getting your chops down, and same whether it's writing songs or just playing the instruments.
Yeah, it definitely is. There's a lot of work that goes into it that people don't see. Sometimes people just think, if you have a show and you're playing for 4 hours, well, you're only working 4 hours, right? No. You've got to load the gear. You've got to set up the gear. You've got to rehearse the songs, get new strings. There's a lot more, I think, under the surface.
Yeah, sure. So tell me about then, the fifth album is called Barefoot. I want to start with Barefoot. You play Barefoot, you play everywhere, and I know that there's a little bit more to it for you personally. So tell me a little bit there. It's also the title track from the song, from the album.
Yeah, growing up, I have these vivid memories of my mom always being barefoot, and there's one particular thing that always comes to mind. I think I must have been about 5 or 6, and we lived out in the county, so. We had well water, and sometimes the water you can't drink it, so we'd have to get water from the neighbors. So she would walk barefoot on like these rocky, the rocky driveway, and I kind of emulated that, and
Tell me about the song then, the title track Barefoot. Where does it come from? What is it about for you?
Yeah, so it's just really about the love for being barefoot. I mean, simply, I wrote it at a time when I was just getting out of working at like a real job, a day job.
Sure, yeah.
And just, every day when I came home, it was really, really awesome just to be able to take my shoes off. But moreover,
kick the shoes off at the end of the day. Yep.
But I guess in a broader sense, it's really just about freedom, in its essence.
Excellent. This is Justin Latam, title cut from Barefoot, the Basement Sessions here on New Music Today.
I just can't stand this any longer. This burning need to be set free from this oppression down below me, keeping my feet in captivity. Then the laces, they come undone, and I go and slip my shoes off one by one. Now I'm barefoot, feeling alright. Barefoot, both left and right, both day and night. Now I'm barefoot, feeling alright. Barefoot. Now there is nothing in between us, my bare feet and the blessed earth. And it is such a simple freedom, I could not pay for what it's worth. When those laces, they come undone, and I go and slip my shoes off one by one. When I'm barefoot, feeling alright. Barefoot, both left and right, both day and night. When I'm barefoot, feeling alright. Barefoot. Nothing binding me or reminding me I'm not working for the man anymore. They are free to breathe, they are free. It's the way I've got to live. The way I've got to live is barefoot, feeling alright. Barefoot, both left and right, both day and night. When I'm barefoot, feeling alright. Barefoot. Barefoot, that's my favorite way to be now. Barefoot. Barefoot, that's my favorite way to be now. Barefoot, feeling alright.
It's Justin Latam and a title cut from his fifth studio album, Barefoot. There's a line in that song about not working for the man anymore. And we were just talking, about that first time when, you can finally quit the job and you rely on music. You rely on music full time. This is a part where I like to, I want to take that and move into having some fun with it.
Sure.
How did that feel that first day when, you say, you know what, I think if we really, really make a go out of this and making a living out of playing the guitar and singing songs and writing songs, because I think for 20 years you've been playing for a long time,
Right.
But you really got to make that transition. Was it a difficult decision? Was it easy to take that leap of faith?
It was kind of a natural progression. I'd kind of just been playing more and more. So it just fit.
Yeah. Right.
But it did feel really good to I took my shoes off at my workplace on my last day and walked out barefoot. So it was
that's awesome.
it was quite fun. Yeah.
It was like that. It's that scene in that movie that Dave Chappelle does, and his buddy quits the job at the burger joint. He grabs the mic and he's like, "Yeah, you're cool. The rest of you, I'm out." Yeah. Okay. First album that you bought with your own money.
First album.
First album you ever bought.
I'm pretty sure it was Nirvana's Nevermind.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. First concert.
First concert was actually Korn. Back in my high school days, I was into the a little bit heavier stuff.
There's a heavier stuff than what you play.
Yeah, it doesn't really show through anymore. But yeah, that was my first concert.
Yeah. This is an awesome debate that could take us all day long. But is there some all times when you think of like an all time record, an album you could listen front to back? Maybe it's an all timer for you, or we want to make a case for an album that you think is right up there.
Well, still to this day, Nirvana's In Utero is my favorite
Sure.
album. I just feel like it's a really I can still listen to it from start to finish without skipping any songs.
Sure.
I still feel like it's fresh. I feel like it's really honest. Other albums I've really enjoyed have kind of come and gone, but that one's kind of maintained.
There's something that's now made me think of this. You mentioned two Nirvana albums. So let me throw a third one in there. The MTV Unplugged album. And what made me think of it too is again that line from your song Barefoot about I'm not working for the man anymore. So in the 90s, MTV had such power that as an artist you couldn't say no. Kind of like radio in the 50s.
Right.
If radio said you were going to do something, you had to do it, and if you didn't, you were kind of blacklisted. MTV got to that height of power probably in the 90s as well. Well, I think we all know Kurt Cobain wasn't really the kind of guy that was going to bend quite that much. But I think he had to find that balance. So really where I'm going with this is that the story behind making that record, the MTV record, is that they were really getting under his skin because they took all day to record this thing, and they'd stop, and they weren't ready for him, but he was ready for them. And so he told the other two guys in the band, we're not playing any of our hits.
Yeah.
We're just going to play whatever I want to play. Right? And yet he still suffered through it. So I found that was kind of like that balance between, you got to see there's the business side of the art, but then there's also, I'm not necessarily going to do everything that you tell me.
Yeah, I definitely, I feel that's very true. Even as a performing musician, if you want to be doing this as a living, you have to play gigs where you're playing covers. But I don't look at it for myself in a negative way.
Right.
It's just part of the process. And it allows me those other times when I am able to play all originals or support my own writing as well. So, I mean, yeah, it is a kind of give and take.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that MTV record from Nirvana, spawned its own legitimate hits afterwards, certainly About a Girl and songs like that. But I think probably the biggest one is the Bowie cover that they do on that.
Yeah,
It kind of becomes the biggest hit off of that record, right?
For sure. And it's really, it's a really haunting rendition. And it's a really unique album too. And it's, I think the more you listen to it, if you're like a really hardcore Nirvana fan, after you get out of your head, oh, there was no hits on the album, then you're like, oh, but it's really cool. It's a really cool
you
album.
listen to it, and my contention is that's where you see art meet business, and I think that as a working musician, you got to keep a certain amount of that idea between there is an art, there is a craft, but there's also the business side of it. We need to sell records and merch and put people in bars and stadiums and theaters and whatnot.
That's an intersection you have to hang out at.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, to hang out at. There's another song I want to get you to play for me again off the Barefoot CD called "Shake Yourself," but I just want to talk to you about that song just a little bit because there's again some pretty deep. I find some pretty deep thoughts running through this song. Talk to me a little bit about this song.
Sure. So I had a friend who was he was kind of at a really like a crossroads. I like to think of it as. And, he had to decide, am I going to continue doing what I love doing, working for someone else, or am I going to, take hold and, start my own business? So he needed some advice, and he went to his dad, who was in the hospital at the time. And his dad told him in Lebanese, his holic. And I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, it means shake yourself. And it instantly, and I wrote it down. I keep it in my wallet as a personal reminder. And I just got thinking to myself, what does that mean? If you have to look inside and shake yourself, and that's kind of that's what inspired the song.
There's a thought that
happened.
runs through the song then that's really kind of like at this time of year, fall, you shake a tree and the leaves that are meant to fall off do, and the ones that stay were meant to stay.
That's it. And if you think about it, like the new leaves can't come in the spring if you don't shake off the old ones first, right? So that's kind of like what underlies the song.
It's a great thought. This is Justin Latam and Shake Yourself, Basement Sessions here on New Music Today.
Hey man, you'd better shake yourself. Yeah, it's up to you. There ain't nobody else. Hey man, shake it where you stand. Feel it from the gut. Don't need no big plan. Never mind the ones who will try and bring you down. Never mind the ones that just cannot dig your sound. Better shake yourself. Hey man, you'd better shake your mind. Yeah, of the ones that just won't give you the time. Hey man, you'd better shake it right and say goodbye, oh, just say goodbye. Never mind the ones who will try and bring you down. Never mind the ones that just cannot dig your sound. Better shake yourself. Hey man, what are you doing? Something for someone else that's just out of tune with your own need, your own truth. Whoa, 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 whoa. You'd better shake your best. Ask for what you're worth and nothing less. Hey man, shake it thoroughly. What's meant to stick will stick. What doesn't you don't need. Never mind the ones who will try and bring you down. Never mind the ones that just cannot dig your sound. Better shake yourself.
It's Justin Latam and Shake Yourself from his fifth studio album, Barefoot. Here on the Basement Sessions on New Music Today, we are a part of the WePodcast network. How much of yourself do you have to let into a song?
I think it totally depends on the song.
Mm-hmm.
Certain songs really, I like to think of songs almost like as like living things, and they have a life of their own, and you really just have to listen. Sometimes they want to get really inside your head. Sometimes they want to take your attention outside of yourself. So it really depends on the song,
Yeah. As music moves us the way it does, what do you think it is about songs, about music that really attaches to a person? Everybody's got that song that will make you think of, oh, that's my high school song. That's the one I met, my husband, my wife, or that's just the song that's like my driving song, whatever. What do you think it is about music that attaches itself to us?
I think it could be a number of things. I find for myself certain lyrics, even if I don't necessarily, I don't necessarily feel like I have to always understand them.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just, they really stick, or even just the music itself, like the melody,
Yeah.
maybe is really catchy. And sometimes it's out of our control, really, when we associate songs with certain things. If a song just happens to be playing when something big happens,
It just hits.
then they're married.
Yeah,
The moment and the music kind of.
Absolutely. Tom Petty one time said something about, you just sometimes you hit the right 3 chords and you literally don't even need anything else. Of course, he was referring to Free Falling at the time.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said for that. That sometimes we don't need to overthink it. I think
That's it. Yeah.
That's well said. That's well said. Really, where I'm going with it now is that, this year in 2017, we saw a lot of pretty big rock stars that we lost this year. But one in particular really moved the entire country. Of course, Gord Downie a couple of weeks ago from Tragically Hip.
Right.
And in this case, it's more. It seemed to have been more than that was my favorite song, or this one reminds me of university days. It really changed. It really moved the entire country. I mean, the Prime Minister cried. People were companies were making commercials. We're going to miss you, Gord. That kind of thing. It must have had an effect on you, because we're going to go to another song of yours.
For sure. I've always been a fan of the Hip. And I don't know where this quote comes from, but I've heard it said that they were kind of like Canada's house band,
Awesome. Yeah.
So I really think that kind of sums up the effect, the way they kind of reached Canadians, and it was big.
You wrote a song about it.
I did. I wrote a song about the last concert that the Hip did, and the song is called August 20, and. The night of the concert, I was at a gig, I was working, and I was coming home, and in my head I thought, I'd like to see it, but if I don't get home, I'll just catch it on YouTube the next day or whatever.
Yeah.
But I got in the car, and there's the CBC was on, and so it was like 3 songs into the concert, and I just had this feeling, that when I got home, I kind of, maybe I drove a little faster than I should have, but I got home, and I felt like I wanted to watch it. As a Canadian, I
Right.
just kind of felt this sense of connection.
All right. So we were laughing about this before we started the show, the sort of the secret hidden track. They don't make secret hidden tracks on CDs anymore.
Yeah, it's...
remember that last song always used to be like 20 minutes long, right? And there was always something at the end.
Yeah, you can't hide it anymore.
Yeah.
If you put a song on YouTube, no one's going to listen. Why is this song 20 minutes long? No one's going to listen to the whole thing.
You can't do it anymore. No, it was truly a CD thing. So this, I don't know why I called this your secret hidden song. Or maybe I'll wait for it to come out on the next album or something like that. But this is literally brand new music from Justin Latam. It's called August 20 here on New Music Today.
Where were you August 20, 2016, when the Kingston poet and his band came home? From coast to coast to coast, a nation all tuned in to the CBC. And we all sang along with your Gordy 50 mission cap to that final scream. Even Trudeau was there in his hip t-shirt and jeans. And the cameras turned from the games in Rio. From coast to coast to coast, a nation all tuned in to the CBC. And we all sang along with your Gordy 50 mission cap to that final scream. like a shiny metallic leather shooting star. It burned out bright, speaking of that night for those northern rights. From coast to coast to coast, a nation all tuned in to the CBC. And we all sang along with your Gordy 50 mission cap to that final scream. From coast to coast to coast, a nation all tuned in to the CBC. And we all sang along with your Gordy 50 mission cap to that final scream.
August 29th is Justin Latam, and just an absolute wonderful tribute to the hip. I think more specifically to Gord Downie.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's I love it. Yeah, it's a great song. I wonder what it is, about your. We talked about your process already when you get that spark. Like, how does it feel when you get it? You know what I mean? Maybe you're driving home. You know what I mean? And you know, I can kind of picture, any musician grabbing that book. But sometimes you don't have it. But that light goes off.
It's energizing. I've had to pull over, to put notes in my phone, or I write
Sure.
things on receipts anywhere. Like I just, if I don't, then I find that I'll repeat things over and over the whole way until I get to a place where I can start writing it down. But it's really it's almost like you just all of a sudden feel a sense of openness, and if you just go with it, then good things happen.
So, what inspires you?
What inspires me? Kind of the driving force behind my songs, and even wanting to pursue music as a living is definitely my family, the love of my wife and my 5 kids. And I feel like I can't really raise them and tell them, follow your dreams if I'm not looking at myself and trying to do that myself, right? So I have to set an example, and that's definitely the driving force behind what I do.
Yeah. So then just, again, that takes me back to this idea of, at the end of the day, it still is a job. It's a pretty cool job. But at the end of the day, it really still is a job. And like the rest of us, you're trying to balance your family life, work life, practicing or working on the craft and all of that kind of thing. I know it's the truth when you say you couldn't do it without the support.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like, I just couldn't.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. What kind of music influenced you at any point in your life growing up? What are your musical influences?
I mean, the earliest thing I remember, my dad had an awesome record collection. So Pink Floyd, Steve Miller Band, Led Zeppelin, all the good classic stuff. Yeah. And then, like I said, Nirvana was big for me as a teenager. Mm-hmm. But then I kind of grew. And really, Leonard Cohen is my favorite songwriter.
Nice.
I love the Beatles. Listening to their whole catalog is like a crash course in songwriting. There's so many things. I took jazz band at the end of my high school experience. Right. So that was like a musical education as well. So there's just tons. I try to be open and not limit myself to like one certain. I can only listen to rock. I can only listen to blues. Like I try to keep it open because sometimes you can cross things from different genres, and it just I think it makes you a better musician overall.
For sure. And for me, the answer is because music's awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's awesome. Because and great list of homework that you just provided, right? Of those names of those bands, and I think it's some of the most important records ever made. I know you're supposed to say London Calling by the Clash is the most important album ever made. I contend it's actually Revolver by the Beatles is the most important album ever. Not necessarily the best album ever made, most important album ever made.
That is a pretty cool one
because it bridges the mop top Fab Four Beatlemania to the taking off of the suits, growing their hair, and getting a little bit deeper with their music. But you see it all bridged on that one record, right? You get like Drive My Car, and that's still the kind of want to shake your head. So you just want Paul to go woo, right? and yet at the same time you take a song like Taxman, and you're like, I see where this band is about to go, right?
Yeah, and they've got some cool it's the first use of backwards guitar, playing that was by mistake when they had the reels playing backwards, and you've got John's last track, Tomorrow Never Knows, and it's really got all these sound effects and kind of this Eastern influence. It's a crazy album.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to take this towards the end here now. You also mentioned Leonard Cohen. One of my favorite covers that has ever been done by anybody, any artist who ever covered an original song. My favorite has always been Jeff Buckley's cover of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. I mean, it's already a beautiful song, but what he did to it was just incredible. So I think there's something about, you talked a lot about playing covers and whatnot.
Right.
There's still an ability and a great option for a musician to really put themselves into somebody else's song and take it in a new direction.
That's for sure. And sometimes it almost takes hearing someone else cover a song. You end up wanting to cover the cover, right? So it's like a cover once removed.
The cover once removed. That's awesome.
But
how could I have never thought of that before? That's awesome. I love it. Cover once removed.
It was a spark.
Yeah.
But I actually heard his version on the radio the other night, and I think I'm kind of tied between his version and Katie Lang's version.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I've seen her
too.
play it live.
Yep.
But I think that's a testament of a great song.
Yep.
If
for sure.
if others can really get into it as well.
Yeah, for sure. You kind of know where I'm going now with this. We're talking about covers again, right? Yeah. See, if you indulge me, maybe my MTV moment of seeing if I can't get you to take a request for me here.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. If you can pull it off for me, maybe we talked a lot about the hip and your song dedicated to the hip. Maybe end this thing with some Bob Cajun for me.
You got it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bob Cajun.
Left your house this morning about 9:15. Could have been the Willie Nelson, could have been the wine. When I left your house this morning, it was a little after 9. It was in Bob Cajun. I saw the constellations reveal themselves one star at a time. Drove back to town this morning with working on my mind, and I thought of maybe quitting, thought of leaving it behind. Went back to bed this morning, and as I'm pulling down the blind, yeah, the sky was dull, hypothetical, and falling one cloud at a time. That night in Toronto, with its checkerboard floor, riding on horseback and keeping order restored, till the man they couldn't hang stepped to the mic and sang, and their voices rang with that Aryan twang. your house this morning, about 9:15. In the middle of that riot, couldn't get you off my mind. So I'm at your house this morning. It's just a little after 9. It was in Bobcaygeon. I saw the constellations reveal themselves one star at a time.
Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
A personal
You're welcome.
request there. I love it. Thanks very much. Justin, thank you so much for taking the time out to join me here on New Music today. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Corey.
Appreciate your talent as well. And sometimes music leads to a little bit more of a political side of things. And if that's your taste, check out my colleague Lisa Gretzky, our local MPP, and her show Unparliamentary right here on the WePodcast Network. That's going to do it for this basement session on New Music today here on the WePodcast Network. I'm Corey Robertson.